Hey y'all, welcome back to today's Booked. It's me, your host, Chelle, and 'tis the freaking season. 'Tis the season to be jolly. Fa la 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 la. Okay, I don't know when this episode is gonna drop, so I'm just gonna go ahead and say Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, Happy Kwanzaa, Happy Holidays, Happy New Year, whatever you celebrate. I hope everybody is happy and merry. It's been a hot freaking minute, but I am back to wrap up the end of season 1 with my 2024 book wrap up. I just can't even believe it's about to be 2025. I feel like I blinked and rolled my eyes a couple times and it's here. That's so crazy. Where does the time even go? I don't know. It goes by so fast. Wow. And just like that, a whole new year is upon us. New year, new reading goal, new books. I just am so excited. I can't even believe it. I'm like, what did I even do this year? I definitely need to reflect on this past year. But that's not what this episode is about. It's definitely going to be reflecting on my 2024 reads. I've decided I'm going to do this episode a little different and just dive in because I have a lot to discuss. This episode is obviously going to reflect my year of reading from my favorite books to some mini discussions on a couple of the books that I read this holiday season. December was a full month of holiday reads to get me in the spirit, and I read some good ones. And then I'm also going to answer some end of the year reading questions, and that'll be a wrap on season 1. You already know what to do. Get comfy, get cozy, and let's get started. Okay, I think I'm actually going to start with the end of the year reading wrap up questions. So, what was your 2024 reading goal and did you meet it? My 2024 reading goal, I believe when I first set the goal way back when in January, I think I did it at 70 or 75. I can't remember, but I definitely lowered it to 60 because when I moved and was getting settled into my new place, I was a complete train wreck and not very much reading was taking place. I was super behind. Did I meet my goal this year? And I did meet my goal for the year of 60 books. I might get to 61 or 62 by this episode comes out. Who knows? But your girl, she did it. And I would just like to shout out to the month of December and all the Christmas novellas I was able to read because those really put me back on the map, got me to where I am and succeeding in reaching my goal. So yay. And the next question is, what is the most surprising book you read this year? And honestly, I think I'm going to go with Butcher and Blackbird by Bryn Weaver, not in a bad way. So I did not expect to love this book, but I absolutely did. I put off that book for so long. Every time I would just go to Target and pass this book, I would just look at it and be like, that's not my vibe. It's just not my vibe. I'm not going to read it. I'm a big book cover judger. And it's not like I didn't like the cover. I just was looking at it and I was like, that's definitely not my vibe. And my friend Tegan, she was like, you need to read this book. You would love it. So I kept putting it off. And then finally one day I just bought Butcher and Blackbird and Leather and Lark and decided to read it. So I did an immersive reading. So I listened to the audiobook and read the physical copy at the same time. And I freaking fell in love. And the audiobook is absolute perfection. The best audiobook I've ever listened to in my life lives rent-free in my head. I already am ready to reread this book again in 2025. It honestly felt like I was watching a movie while I was listening to it. It was just so good. And I freaking loved the characters. I loved Rowan. I loved Sloane. The banter. It was just so good. And I just am so mad that I put it off for so long, but I'm glad I did because now we're here and I'm just obsessed. And I love the writing style of the book too. You don't know what that book is about. It's about two rival murderers who specialize in killing serial killers. They just form this bond and do this competition. It's definitely dark romance, enemies to lovers, definitely slow burn romance too. So if you like those tropes, definitely check that out. And I really like how Butcher and Blackbird is suspense. It has romance and it has thriller and it also has humor. I freaking loved Salone's personality and Rowan's. Oh my God, I just am obsessed with them and I'm obsessed with this book and it's done really, really well. I'm freaking obsessed. I feel like that is the biggest surprise because I was not expecting to love it as much as I did. I loved it so much that I haven't even read the second book yet, Leather and Lark, because I'm scared that I might like the second book more than I like the first one. And I just can't deal with that right now. But I would say definitely Butcher and Blackbird, number one. There are some others that I was not expecting to love, but Butcher and Blackbird's taking the cake. Next question, did I step out of my comfort zone with any genres or authors? I absolutely did. And Whitley and I did an episode on these books, Fourth Wing and Iron Flame by Rebecca Yarros. And as you know, I'm not really a fantasy romantasy girly. That was my first time dipping my toes into that genre outside of Twilight. Shout out to the Twilight fans. Are you team Jacob or Edward? Okay. Anyways, so I definitely stepped out of my comfort zone with those. Whitley was like, oh my God, you've got to read it. You've got to read it. So I did. And I'm not mad that I read them. I actually really liked both of them. They were just really super long. And I just feel like I needed a Venn diagram to keep up with a lot of things because a lot was happening. I just am not a fantasy gal. I might dip my toes in it again for 2025, but I don't know yet. Oh, and if you don't know what Fourth Wing and Iron Flame are about, essentially exploring Basgiath War College, Violet Soaringale, who has spent her whole life training to be a scribe, is forced to join the Writers' Quadrant by her mother, who is the HBIC, and she must bond with the dragon and survive all these challenges. And she also meets Xaden, aka Shadow Daddy, and that's definitely some enemies to lovers right there. And Iron Flame is just a continuation of that and a war. So many things I can barely remember because those books just have so much information. It's hard to keep track of that. And I read those books back in May and June. So they are out of sight, out of mind. They've been overwritten with other information. And another book that I stepped out of my comfort zone with was The Nightingale by Kristen Hanna, historical fiction. And I don't really read historical fiction, but that was such a good book and it was so well written. And I honestly think I want to read it again because I feel like I almost didn't process it all the first time I was reading it because I did read it for book club. So I did read it fairly fast. I can't remember, but I might have listened to the audiobook as well. But it was just really good. And that book follows two sisters in their different paths they took during World War II and all the challenges and the hardships and sacrifices that the sisters went through. And it was just so good. I really liked that one. So I would say those are the three that I definitely stepped out of my comfort zone with because I definitely am not one to gravitate towards a historical book or a fantasy book, but we will see what 2025 has in store for me. Okay, next question. Was there a book I didn't finish and why? Honestly, I'm not a DNFer, but I might start DNFing in 2025, but just thinking about it makes me unwell because I'm just think, what if the book gets better? I'm not going to know what happens. Like that just doesn't sit well with me. But there was a book that I really did want to DNF so bad, which was Beach Read by Emily Henry, but I ended up finishing it. I didn't really like it. And I think that is kind of leads into the next question too, because it is what book did you pick up because of hype and did it live up to your expectations? And I feel like that was one book that I picked up because I kept seeing Beach Read. And I was like, okay, I have it on my shelf. I might as well pick it up. And I was in San Diego at the beach and I was like, this is going to be the perfect beach read. And I had just finished Just for the Summer by Abby Jimenez, which was such a great book. freaking love it. Back to beach reads. So I was on a high from after just for the summer. And oh my God, I was in the biggest slump reading beach read. I did not want to finish it, but I had to because I was like, oh my God, what if it gets better? What's going to happen? And it did not live up to my expectations. I did not like it. I just didn't really feel much reading that book. I honestly was kind of bored, not really invested. So beach read just wasn't for me. I did read People We Meet on Vacation by Emily Henry as well, and I loved that book. And it was a completely different vibe. Enjoyed it. I think I rated that one 4 stars. Another question is, what's one genre or author you want to explore in 2025? There's so many books, so many authors, so many things that I want to explore in 2025. Okay, so an author I want to explore, I have a couple actually. Kennedy Ryan is an author I definitely want to explore in 2025. I have her Hoops series that I need to read. I want to explore more Abby Jimenez because I've only read just for the summer. So I want to read more of her books. Lila Sage, I haven't read any of her books. I definitely want to explore Janisha Boswell. I want to read her Drayton Hills series. Jennifer Hartman. I want to read some more Riley Sager books. Lauren Asher for sure. And Anna Hung. I feel like I'm missing some, but so many books. Can never keep track. Any genres I want to explore. I might dip my toes in a little romantasy, but I don't know. It's just not something that I really gravitate to or really care to dive in more. I just am a thriller romance gal through and through. And once I like something, I just like it. Okay, so another question is, how do you balance reading with other responsibilities or hobbies? Really, for me, I read in the morning when I'm walking my dog. I'll take my Kindle with me. Or if I wake up super early, I'll just read in bed for 30 minutes. And then I read in the evenings because usually I'll work out in the morning and then have my evenings to do all my stuff. So reading is just a part of the everyday routine pretty much at this point. So, okay, next question. Which 2025 book releases are you most excited about? Okay, so I'm excited for obviously Onyx Storm by Rebecca Yarros, Say You'll Remember Me by Abby Jimenez, One Golden Summer by Carly Fortune, The Crash by Frida McFadden. Lisa Jewell has a new book coming out too, Don't Let Him In. Those are the only ones that are coming to the top of my head right now. Oh, and Caught Up, Nevessa Allen, the second book in the Into the Darkness series. So I'm definitely excited about that. Okay, now let's dive into my Fable stats. Since I answered all the questions, I am a Goodreads girly, even though that app hasn't been updated since probably when it first came out. I don't even know when it first came out, but I don't think that app has ever seen an update. So I recently started using Fable and wow, life-changing. So Fable has all the stats. It has what books you read each month, which is so cool. I love seeing that. And my most read genres, my average rating, and my most read authors. So y'all already know that I've met my reading goal of 60 books. And Fable said my most read genre is romance. So I've read 30 romance books, 26 thrillers, 21 mystery, 14 true crime, and 6 sports books. I wish it would let you click on it to see what the books are labeled as, because I'm like, what 6 sports books did I read? I know I read a book about tennis, but I'm like, what other sports books did I read? And then my most read authors are Frida McFadden with 7 books, Hannah Cowan with 4 books, Carly Fortune with 2 books, Christina Lauren 2 books, Elsie Silver 2 books, Rebecca Yarros 2 books, and Sally Hepworth 2 books. Oh, and my average rating this year was 3.8. Oof, that's not really good. I had a lot of, I think I had 14 5-star books, 15 plus 4 stars. Interesting. So let's dive into the mini discussions. Oh, I also wanted to do my favorite books of each month. So I'll do that first, and then we'll do some mini discussions unless I run out of time. So my top book for January was The Christmas Orphans Club by Becca Freeman. This was about 4 friends in New York who created their own holiday tradition. One of the friends decides they're going to move to LA, and that just dishevels the group, and they have to figure out how to navigate all the changes. I really enjoyed that book. And then February, I have The Teacher by Frida McFadden, which, oh my God, Frida, if you are ever in a slump, just read a Frida McFadden book. The Teacher by Frida McFadden, so freaking good. I just love how I can read a Frida book and I don't want to put it down because I need to know what's going to happen. And they're just page turners. And I always think I have it figured out, and never do I have it figured out. And I love that. But The Teacher is about a married couple. They're both high school teachers. The wife is math teacher and the husband's an English teacher, and the husband gets entangled with a student, and it is just all kinds of crazy. The twists, the secrets that are revealed, I just was shocked. So if you haven't read that one, definitely read it. March book is The Nightingale by Kristen Hanna. I already talked about that one. It is a little bit on the longer side. And April, I read so many that month, but I'm going to go with None of This Is True by Lisa Jewell, which that is about a podcaster. She meets her birthday twin on their birthday, and this woman literally becomes obsessed with her. And Alex, who's the podcaster, decides to make her the subject of her next podcast. And that just unravels a lot of secrets about the family. And it is just so wild. So good. I definitely was not expecting the ending. So check that one out as well. And then May is Fourth Wing by Rebecca Yarros. Already talked about that one. June is Heartless by Elsie Silver, which Grumpy Daddy Cade. That's my man. I love him. Obsessed. And I'm obsessed with Willa. I love her personality. This is the second book in the Chestnut Springs series. So that book is about Cade and Willa. So Cade, he is a grumpy single dad, and Willa becomes Cade's nanny to his son Luke. And this was definitely the grumpy sunshine trope, small town romance, and there's an age gap as well. It's definitely a slow burn. I very much enjoyed that book. I need to actually finish that series, so I need to get on that. Okay, in July was The Paradise Problem by Christina Lauren, and oh my God, I freaking loved this book. This was like watching a rom-com. I cannot wait to reread this book, but I also want to do like a full podcast episode on this book. This book was so funny. I loved the banter. I was laughing out loud. I love the writing style of this book. I will read every Christina Lauren book. I don't care. I would definitely say it is Marriage of Convenience, slow burn, maybe. Y'all definitely have to read that one if you haven't. August, I have Keep It in the Family by John Mars and Just for the Summer by Abby Jimenez. And y'all know I was obsessed with Just for the Summer. Justin in that book. Best book boyfriend of 2024, hands down. I freaking love Abby Jimenez's writing style as well. And that book is about Emma, who's a travel nurse, and Justin, he's a software engineer. And they both have this curse that where their exes always find true love after them. So they decide to enter kind of a fake relationship to see if they can break the curse. And it's just really good. I love that book so much. I wish I could reread it again for the first time. Okay, and then we have Keep It in the Family by John Mars. That is a thriller, and it's about a young couple, and they buy a house, and they discover some horrifying things in their attic. And the wife just cannot let it go and digs in, and she becomes obsessed with it to find out the truth of what she's discovered. And the book was so good. It became like the wife, I was obsessed. I was like, what the heck is going on? It was wild. So that was another top book for August. And then we have September, which was a sucky month for me. I had a bunch of 2 and 3 star reads, but I did enjoy The Perfect Son by Frida McFadden, which, gosh, her books get me every time. So basically, this mom, she has what she thinks is the ideal perfect son, and he gets caught up in the disappearance of a local girl from a school, and it just unravels a lot of family secrets, and it's just wild. I was just not expecting what the ending was. I just am trying to do short synopsises because I'm not trying to give anything away with these books, and I feel like I always do that. So hopefully I haven't spoiled anything thus far. Okay, let's move on to October. That was such a good month for me that I have 4 books. First one is Pen Pal by J.T. Gessinger, and that book took me for a wild ride because I judged a book by the cover, the title. I honestly thought it was going to be about a man in the slammer, a girl that had a pen pal in the slammer, and their love story unfolded that way. And that's not what I got. I might have to start reading the back of the books but it's also fun going in blind, because that was what I thought the book was going to be about, and it was nothing of the sort. So that was a real treat. The next one is Everything We Never Said by Salone Harlow, which is dark YA romance book. And that was about a girl, Ella, in her senior year of high school, and her dealing with the guilt of a car accident that killed her best friend. And then she starts getting feelings for her best friend's boyfriend, and woo, it was such a good book. The ending shook me. And then Butcher and Blackbird by Bryn Weaver, which I already talked about, and Lights Out by Nevessa Allen, which that book was wild. I freaking loved it. But it's about a trauma nurse, Allie. She has an obsession with a masked man that posts seductive videos on TikTok, and her fantasies become reality real quick. Okay, let's move on from October. We have November. Was a Frida McFadden month for me. I read 5 of her books, and I'm going to go with The Boyfriend because that book was wild. It was just such a fast, easy read. Just love how her books just pull you in. But this is basically about a girl dating, and he's got a bunch of red flags, and she just ignores the red flags. And that's all I'm going to say about that book. And then December was a bunch of my holiday reads. And the 2 that I chose were I'll Be Alone for Christmas, which is a thriller novella by Kristen Mulligan, and December Darling by Lauren Asher. Well, I guess I will go ahead and do my mini book discussions. So I'll Be Alone for Christmas is about Romy. She goes to a remote cabin after a breakup with her boyfriend, and bizarre events take place over her stay, and she gets snowed in. So she's unable to escape, even though everybody was like, don't go. She was like, no, I need to go. I spent this money. She couldn't let it go to waste. So she's got to survive. So you're going to have to read that book next holiday season because that's a good one. And then My December Darling by Lauren Asher. That's about Catalina, a travel nurse who goes home for her sister's winter wedding, where she's the maid of honor, and her sister is actually marrying her ex-boyfriend, and her ex-boyfriend's best friend, who's also the best man, Catalina, is like trying to stay away from him. And you can just see where this is going. 'Tis the season to fall in love, or will she flee? Last one is In a Holidays by Christina Lauren. And all I gotta say is be careful what you wish for, because Malin finds herself stuck in a time loop, reliving her family's Christmas vacation in Park City, Utah. I honestly like the book. I like how it ended. And I think that is a wrap on my 2024 book wrap up. I just want to thank y'all for listening and for all the support of me bringing back the podcast. It's been quite a journey, and hopefully it can only go up from here. I have some changes that I'm going to be making in 2025, so stay tuned for that. I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you're not already, make sure you're following the podcast at Today's Booked on Instagram and TikTok. Rate the podcast on Spotify or Apple. Again, appreciate all your love and support. Happy New Year. See y'all in 2025. Remember, today is booked and tomorrow isn't looking good either.